Hi, everybody. This is Dr. Ed Park from Recharge Biomedical, and today we're doing a brief webinar on face blindness or prosopagnosia. Prosopagnosia is from prosopon, face, and agnosia, not knowing, so it's Greek. The goals will be to talk about what it is, who gets it, present a case, and speculate a mechanism why it could have helped, and talk about whether you should try it or recommend it. This happened last week. There was a woman in Mexico who she saw her husband looking at a picture of him having sex with a young, skinny woman, and she got so enraged with jealousy, she just started stabbing him without questions asked and was arrested. Unfortunately, it was her as a younger person, so maybe she had a form of prosopagnosia, who knows? When it's severe, you can't even recognize yourself. Um, So it is the inability to recognize faces, and it can be associated, although not often, with achromatopsia, which is the inability to see color, topographical disorientation, meaning the inability to recognize the spatial relations of things, and general loss of vision. It can be apperceptive, meaning you are not perceiving, you can't even see, versus associative, you can't relate. So the difference between those is if you get someone to do a drawing test, like to copy a line drawing, then they can do that uh, if they have the perception. If they can do that, but if they're apperceptive, they can't even copy a line drawing. You see, so if it's just associative, they can copy it, but they might not know what it is. We know from functional MRI studies, that's above in the black and white, that when a person is trying to recognize faces, this part of the brain in the temporal, meaning the side, and occipital back, is what fires. That's where the blood goes to. And it's shown in the illustration above, the fusiform gyrus, although the lingual gyrus uh, behind that is also quite involved. So, who gets it and how is it diagnosed? Well, there's a rare form which is familial. It's inherited in an autosomal dominant fashion, but usually it's mild to severe. 2% of people can be considered to have prosopagnosia, and it can be acquired, as in the case of our patient, as you'll see. She had pregnancy, and during the pregnancy, she acquired this problem. Of course, things that cause neuronal damage include Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, carbon monoxide poisoning, and encephalitis, any infection of the brain. Interestingly, the division of labor is the right side is more for faces, the left side is for objects. So I just talked to Lisa, and she can see uh, letters, objects, and reading is no problem for her, but faces are a problem. Uh, Also, people who have prosopagnosia, interestingly, can read social cues and understand emotions. They just can't memorize or recognize faces, which is interesting. If you're at all interested in diagnosing yourself on the scale of prosopagnosia, some people are super recognizers. You can do a self diagnosis questionnaire called the PI20, Prosopagnosia Index 20 questions, or you can go to this website, facememory.psy. There are other websites where you can take a test. They sometimes garner a little information from you as well. The test looks something like above. This is a validation for the just the yes or no question thing. So you can see what they did was if you had 100% of the yes answers, like having trouble with faces, then you tended to be towards the right of the graph, and you tended to get a lower number of faces correct. And that stands to reason. So if you think you have a problem, you probably have a problem, and you can see the normals in the dark dots to the upper left, and the abnormals in the lighter dots to the bottom right. So it correlates well with these other two tests of facial recognition. But interestingly, as we said, with objects, it doesn't correlate well with cars. People could recognize cars fairly equally well, interestingly. Um, so the treatment and prognosis, you can't really treat it. It's significant brain damage. You can try and train, and you can use cues like hair color. Lisa tells a funny story, which we'll watch in a second, about categorizing people by blondes and whatever, I guess by ethnicity. But it's unlikely to help too much. The prognosis is very poor because brain damage is hard to fix. Um, and that's because the CNS is not one of those organs, unlike muscles or tendons, that can differentiate and regenerate very efficiently. We use a nasal injection technique. This is something that I learned from stem cell training, and it works quite well. It tracks along the paths of the olfactory nerve, which you can see in the cartoon above, going up through the cribriform plate. Nose is very close to the brain, and also the trigeminal nerve feeds back to the brain stem. So if you get in the submucosal area above the nasal conchae, it will be absorbed, hopefully, into the brain. So I'd like to go now. I have to turn off the screen sharing for a moment and have us listen to Lisa's testimonial. So let's listen to that. If you want to read more, you can go to my website and read the blog exosomes-blog-15-face blindness with a hyphen. She was a 48-year-old woman at the time, previously healthy, no problems with facial recognition prior to her first pregnancy, which was 16 years before. She developed after pregnancy, and there was no high blood pressure, no complications, no neurological problems. But after that pregnancy, she couldn't recognize faces, and it was severe. So we decided to treat her with 3 billion IV and 2 billion nasal, one on each side. And after about a month, she had about a 30% improvement, and that's persisted to this day, 15 months later. And so that's really good for her, and she's considering another treatment as well. So why don't we go ahead and pause the screen sharing, and you can listen to the video along with me. Okay, we're talking with Lisa in her wonderful home, and she's been kind enough to tell us a little bit about prosa. I can't even say it. How do you say it? It's pretty close, yeah. From the Greek prosopon for face and agnosia for not knowing. So for those that don't know what that is, it's when you can't recognize faces or face blindness. Some people have it, maybe 2.5% congenitally. But for you, it came on somewhere around the time of your first of 3 children. So that was about 16 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And so what is that like for a person going to the grocery store or a baseball game? Tell us what that is.
A nightmare. So really, having 3 kids and being active in the community and everything else and meeting people every day, like I can't remember if I could have a long chat with somebody, I could sit and talk to someone for 2 hours at a baseball game and literally see them the next day at the grocery store and not know who they are. And it takes like a good 6 or 7 times before they're ingrained in my memory. And then I'm pretty good to not forget them at that point.
Yeah.
I think once they're ingrained, I don't forget them.
Yeah. Now, but how's your short-term memory in general?
I mean, I think it's probably pretty typical, pretty normal. I mean, I'm starting to have some struggles with it, but then I talk to other friends and they're kind of in the same boat at my age, 48.
Okay, so before the children, no problems with faces,
No.
names. Visually, you're very good. You designed your house. It's just a matter of and famous people. You remember famous people.
Yeah, I'm pretty good. So I was part of a study from, I don't even remember what country. They were, doing something, and I volunteered to do it just to, and I went through a couple different times I've gone through their process where they give me like famous people and stuff like that. And I think I'm, like, I recognize face, but it's hard for me to put the name to it just because that's another memory thing, I guess.
Yeah. So now, in the scores, do you remember, there's a couple of different kinds of scores. Do you remember any of your scores?
I'm bad.
Okay.
But I'm not, I know there's much worse than me.
And so you did some actual brain mapping studies, and they showed the areas that when you were watching a movie, they were not working as well as typically they do for face recognition.
Yeah, well, the one particular movie that I was watching, this is interesting to me, it was like there was a lot going on and there was 4 different women. And the 4 women, there was like the ex-wife, the attorney, there was like 4 different, and they were all blonde, and I could not tell who was who.
That's funny.
So I literally was like, which one is that? And I was struggling, like, was that the ex-wife or that's the new girlfriend? Like I couldn't,
Right.
And it's very frustrating on movies.
And so when Dr. Henderson did the brain mapping while you were watching that, was the part that wasn't lighting up as actively, was that in the back or was it the base?
I don't remember the quadrant. I could ask.
Yeah, because there's 2 areas that typically are involved when you have a lesion. The base, the fusiform gyrus, or the occipital areas, or the anterior temporal.
Because it was such a detailed thing with like different quadrants and whatever, and it was like 14 in
Okay.
whatever section. I don't even know.
Okay, so it's a real thing. For most people, they're like, that's not a real thing. And
Right.
I know we talked about my friend who has it and Brad Pitt who claims to have it.
Yeah.
But, some ability to recognize faces is kind of hardwired in people. And it's a very weird sort of thing. Like people see faces in clouds and fruit and mountains. But
Yeah.
your ability to just memorize faces is not that great anymore. Is it getting
Yeah,
worse?
no, but like once I know the person,
Yeah.
I don't forget them.
Did you recognize me?
Yeah, well, when I saw, so what would happen is,
You'd be
when
like,
you walk away,
Yeah, you'd be like Asian dude, this
Yeah.
height, this age,
but
right?
when you walk away, so with you, I knew you were coming to that, and then I saw you, I'm like, okay, I remember that face.
Yeah.
Now, when I try to visualize your face after you leave today,
Yeah.
I might not be able to visualize it. Like, I literally know when I walk away, I can't picture the person. Like, when you walk away, you can picture
Okay.
what that person looked like, right? In your head.
Yeah.
I can't picture it.
I see. Okay, well, we'll see. Well, hopefully the exosomes might help, and I'll give you a.
I'm getting close to recognizing it.
Okay, I'll give you a selfie before we go.
Okay,
I have a little
perfect.
printer, so.
That's what I need.
Okay. Okay. Thanks. All right, we just did the procedure. How do you feel?
I feel kind of tired and very relaxed.
Good. So, did it hurt a lot?
Not really.
Not too bad. Okay. So we did the IV.
I think I was really nervous.
a little nervous. It made me nervous. Yeah. Grilling me about my
And then
education
I immediately got
background.
relaxed. And I was a pretty good patient, wasn't I?
No, you were horrible. All right, so we're back with Lisa talking about how she's doing a month after nasal injection for, how do I say this, prosopagnosia. All right, okay, that's the hardest part. So you went to back to school night at your high school. How was that?
Oh, wait. The high school reunion or the back to school night?
Both.
Okay, so the back to school night, I was very excited. I was confident.
Mm-hmm.
I think like the confidence too, like, because I was like, let's see what I do, what I know, because you're running in from class to class. I think I did pretty well. I was recognizing people, or they would look familiar, which a lot of times people don't even look familiar at all.
Mm.
Yeah.
So there wasn't that fear of making a big gaffe, like
Right.
just running into somebody that you just spoke to 5 minutes ago. You
Yeah.
didn't have that. Okay.
And that was a couple nights after, right?
Yeah, I noticed initially you felt like there was a shift in how you were recognizing
That was
people.
the first night I think that I felt like super excited that I was like noticing, and I don't know if that was like the same week that we did it,
Yeah,
or the week after.
I think so. And then you went to high school reunion.
Yeah.
We won't say what number, but other than the hair and the bellies and the
Yeah,
you were able to recognize all your high school.
yeah, I did really well with that too.
Good.
Yeah,
Well, those people are deeper from an older time.
yeah. It's more
Yeah.
my issues are more with new people, and when I went to a neurologist about this, it was like it just takes you longer to have a face implanted
Right.
in your memory.
So now one of the examples you gave, you could be sitting 4 hours with somebody at a baseball game.
Yeah.
And the next day, don't even remember them.
Right. It's almost like I need multiple times,
Yeah.
not length of time.
Right.
And anyone from the past, and once you're in my memory and implanted,
Did you remember me?
I don't have an issue.
Did you remember me? Well, I gave you a picture last time.
Yeah, you did. But I haven't been studying your picture.
So how day to day, going to the grocery store, in carpool, how are you doing? Are you feeling like they're a little more confidence in remembering just random faces, or you feel like it's the same? Different?
I am having more confidence. I mean, I'm going to give it like a 30% improvement.
Yeah.
Which I think is pretty good.
That's significant. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't have that baseline anxiety that you're going to mess up and not remember your daughter's friend's mom.
I mean, I guess I'm not having the anxiety because I'm super anxious and curious. Not to say that wouldn't happen. That I would, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
My daughter, one of the moms sent a picture of a bunch of my daughter's friends at a birthday party. And one of the girls, I said, Frankie, to my daughter, like, who is next to you? And she was like, that's, so-and-so. How could you not know that? Then I asked my husband, who's Frankie next to? And he said, I don't know.
Okay.
I said, okay, she doesn't look like herself in that picture.
Right.
That was last night, so I got a little nervous because I'm like, I don't see it at all. But then there was another picture of the same girl, and I'm like, oh, of course, that's She just didn't look herself. Sometimes that
Okay,
can
well,
happen.
it's good to have your husband there to
Yes.
check you. Yeah.
And he took the face blindness test, and he only got like around what you got. I don't know, the 80.
80? Oh, he took it? So
Yeah.
you rocked that pretty
Yeah,
hard,
it was like
but you never took that
77%.
before.
No.
Yeah, so we don't know if that's a change.
Right.
But so when your husband and you were at back to school night, there were no major like, who's that? Like,
No.
you did pretty well.
I felt pretty good.
Yeah, because we all do struggle with recognizing people.
Yeah, I
but
mean, that's going to be
you felt
true.
more like in the range of normal, not like, oh my God, don't mess up, like that.
Yeah, it felt more in the range of normal. And I was definitely more confident.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's something.
Yeah.
We weren't expecting a total reversal, but
Yeah.
at least you can go about your life and
Yeah.
not worry that you're Dory the fish.
I kind of am, but yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Lisa. We'll keep up.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so that was interesting. Just to recap for those that don't know, exosomes are not cells. They don't have the cell machinery. So size-wise, they're about 1/500th, let's say, the diameter of a cell. So it's a sphere. It has some proteins, some mRNA, some blocking mRNA, and they're very, very tiny, and they go everywhere. They're not cells, so they don't reproduce. They don't have their own DNA or cell machinery, and most importantly, they don't have self-antigens, so they cannot be rejected by your body. So one size fits all for all of us, and that makes them more effective and safer. So the final question is, how would this be working? Well, definitely it has to probably do with some kind of repair of the brain that might involve remyelination of the nerves in the, oh, my light went out. In the brain, there are oligodendrocytes. These are the astrocytes that myelinate the nerves. That you need that electrical insulation for them to work. So that could be happening. It's anti-inflammatory. It could regenerate damaged cells via dedifferentiation. And I refer you to the podcast I did on nerve regeneration. And there's an interesting set of proteins that can be blocked to allow for the cells to become more primitive and reproduce. Also, apoptosis is programmed cell death. It might be allowing certain cells to die, and that would be good if those cells are dysfunctional, meaning like a live wire. So there's a myriad of ways that it could be working. I would say that in general, there are neurological effects from doing a nasal injection. People report better mood. You saw Lisa just briefly be calmer. That's the anti-inflammatory aspect of it. But even almost 2 years later, I can still make my hair stand up on end. So it did a permanent change in my neurological system. I could do that voluntarily. So I do think that there is the capacity to refurbish the brain in some way. If you have questions, you can email me at drpark@rechargebiomedical.com. And there's plenty of content at rechargebiomedical.com to explain more about exosomes, the different procedures we do, and links to the videos on a myriad of other topics. I'll close with this picture of Paul McCartney. For those fans of the Beatles, there's a conspiracy theory that, like Darren in Bewitched, he was switched out after a motor vehicle accident. And there's plenty of things that the Beatles did that was kind of fun. Is Paul dead? That kind of thing. I don't know what the AI that they use in China or for your phones would say about these two faces. Maybe they're similar, maybe they're not. They look pretty similar to me. But it just goes to show you that most of cognition is, in fact, bias. We're not very good at recognizing faces. We are good at recognizing melodies. We basically everything, if you look at police lineups, people are not good at recognizing suspects. And all of cognition is basically affirmation of bias or confirmation of bias. So be grateful all the things that you have. As I do these webinars, I see the people who are horribly dysfunctional. In Hawaii, there's a lot of people limping around with weird gaits. The hips are so important for walking, and the brain is so important for social interaction, facial recognition. And it's only until you miss it that you appreciate just how wonderful our brains are. So again, people generally accept the reality with which they're presented, and therein lies the ability of the con man and the magician and the propagandist to manipulate us. So with that, I'd like to close, and next week we'll probably do something related to vision. We've had a couple of changes with double vision and stroke recovery with hemianopsia. So probably we'll do that either next week or the week after. I don't know if I'm traveling next week to California or not. And again, I'm very excited to be opening up Texas, Florida, and Nevada, maybe Arizona. Uh, and I'll be applying this week for medical licenses there. So at this point, if any of the participants have questions, you can type them in, raise your hand. I can unmute you. Let me go ahead and stop the screen sharing. Okay, everybody, this is Dr. Ed Park, and we're finishing a webinar on face blindness. I believe in 1 to 2 weeks we'll do one on visual changes. So thanks for joining, and aloha, everyone. Take care. Have a great day. Thanks.